This conference will now be recorded.
So there are two things I want to present, but the first thing I want to talk about is kind of the result of our discussions. And so what's going on is there's like a RAS version 0.5 that was submitted to the incubation committee. And the concern is how many RAS solutions are we building? And so this is where we've been doing a lot of talking, trying to sort out with folks involved in both efforts how they fit together. And what we've concluded is that the we have some of the same objectives, but we've been working in different places thus far. So the RAS API that Antonio and I have been working on is really focused on the BMC to silicon interface and creating an upstreamable, very simple driver that allows us to grab CPER logs and drive RAS actions out of band. And then Antonio has also extended that to an in-band solution that also works kind of in a similar manner. And the work that the NVIDIA and Microsoft and Google team has been doing has been heavily focused on error injection, which is like a plus 1,000 for me, but they've been thinking about GPU error injection. And then Rama has also, and I think this is really helpful, so thank you, Rama, but Rama has also been guiding that effort towards using CPER logs. So, imagine getting CPER logs from a GPU. That's also something that I think is not very controversial among us. Rather than what I really want to avoid is having, 10 different things in Redfish I have to go gather and join to try to understand what's going on inside a device. And so what we're proposing is that we take the RAS work that that was more GPU focused, and that's error injection and CPER. We were fine with that. And I think what we can do is as we grow our error injection work here, we need to merge it with what they're doing and kind of steer it towards them in a way that as we build error injection plans, I don't know what the right answer is because we have to talk to all the people involved in that other effort, and we haven't yet. But we want to like have an error injection document, or if we can't merge the GPU error injection and the SoC error injection, then we have two very closely related documents. And so we'll sort that out. And that's kind of where we're thinking of steering the existing documents before the incubation committee is to figure out how to rename it and how to reflect that it's focused mainly on air injection with some CPER stuff in it. And then what we want to do as we build error logging in GPUs is guide them towards the RAS API discussions so that we create a single interface for doing this stuff and not multiple. And what the good news is that NVIDIA and others, I think, will be able to have that in the RAS API discussion. I think that's going to work out. So we can pull the parties in and say, okay, how do we create a thing that is simple and upstreamable and easy to do? And so I spent some time working with DLOS over this week with it because he was visiting. He was in the area, so he and I visited, and I was telling him about my North Star. What I'm trying to accomplish with the RAS API. And Vilas is like, Drew, why don't you lead with that? Because people will agree. Less code on the BMC, easy to upstream, easy to merge, single source of error logs, easy to analyze, design for an analysis. Lead with those benefits, and maybe we can then make adjustments to the RAS API to as needed. And the other thing that's come up with the RAS API is that the SoC vendors may uh, take a few product generations to implement it, or they may take one, but the life cycle may be longer. And if we're doing something urgent with the GPU folks, then we may need something sooner. And so my proposal there is to like look at the RAS API and say, it's really an abstraction layer. It's really a driver model that allows us to have very simple drivers. And so we may be able to accelerate that abstraction or tune that abstraction some to enable a silicon vendor that needs to move faster to do that without holding everyone else up while we sort out the silicon vendors that are maybe going to adopt it but need more time to do it. So we need to kind of create a way to do that, but I think we can. And so I'm going to pause, and I would like to check in with Rama and Antonio and make sure that I'm capturing kind of what we said accurately. Am I in the right ballpark?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Thank you, Drew.
100%.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Antonio, go ahead after you.
Yeah. For me, Drew, you're just hitting the mark exactly what we discussed and the plans forward. I think having understood better what's been done in the GPU, I think we're complementary efforts, and
Mhm.
RAS API will provide that API, right, communication between the hardware and the software, and then Rama's effort will provide the zipper record formats and the error injection formats and all of that is needed, right, that we're not doing in RAS API. So I think this is great, and having the North Star spelled out will also help align the rest of the people, communicate better.
And to put Rama on the spot a little bit, I'm also imagining that if we need the like GPU vendors, if they need to move faster, then he can spearhead focusing on helping us focus in on the parts of the RAS API that we need to solidify first to enable them to move. I mean, so I hope that's okay with both of you, but that's kind of my mental model here is Rama, maybe you can help speed up the things that are really critical.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, yeah. Like, first of all, thank you, both of you. And I know Drew, a lot of calls with other people who are involved in the both the things. Okay. And like, as a team, right? Like, we succeed as long as we solve like one problem, like using one spec. It like right, like
Mhm.
because we are looking here for adoption time to market, right? Like we put like let's say five specs and nobody try to adopt it, like right.
Yeah, yeah,
We failed it together, right? We are all in the same mindset. We are trying to solve similar problems, make easy life for CSPs and silicon vendors, right? Okay,
Mhm.
like now you thank you, you're able to read the spec, and right now those are right now both are complementing each other right now. Like there are no overlaps so far, right? And then we use that the other forum, like where Nvidia is there with CLA, like you are part of, right, as part of Google.
Yeah,
Hey, how do we bring this together? What are the names, or what are the like share this North Star vision and get their feedback, because Nvidia also may have like, I don't want to speak about them. Like they
Mhm.
may have their own feedback, right? They may have like a CPU team, GPU team, or one team and all, right? I
Yeah,
want let them come and share that kind of feedback, and then we build that story together, like fully aligned on that. Like right
yeah,
now, the things we are doing is complementing to existing work which we have done previous years, right? Whether
yeah,
you done CPER, like we want to do error injection, only like error injection kind of effort started with other forum, like last year. It took like to bring them on to everybody, it took more time, and there is a 1 month of like a like both teams working together a little bit. I was telling, hey, the FSA is not signed, and out of three companies, two signed the FSA right now. Like one plan to do it this week, and so that others also can see, like everybody in the forum. And yeah, I agree with you. It's all complementing each other, and will bring Nvidia on board on the RAS API North Star, and how they will combine to, hey, what are the names of the specs, and how do we put it, where do we put it,
yeah.
you bring that discussion with Drew, with other counterparts in Google, with Nvidia,
Yeah.
then we can solve that problem. Okay.
Yeah, and I've been working inside Google with the people that worked on the other part, and I think there's alignment there. So, in fact, when I described our North Star, the North Star term came from one of the people that were working on the other side of things, and they're like, okay, if you hold that up as a North Star, I really like it. And then Velos affirmed that. So, uh, So if it's okay with you all, what I'd like to do is show you what I'm thinking is at least my North Star here. And if it's wrong, we can change it, but I'm hoping that I've summarized kind of the goals that we want to hit with the infrastructure that we're proposing in general, but also with the RAS API. So if it's okay with you all, maybe it's only 3 slides. So is that okay if I put that, if I move to that now?
Yeah, true. You
Sure.
might want to actually make it like a bigger full screen or presentation, something like that. I see you have some
Yeah,
smaller text on the next slide. Yeah.
yeah. Let me present. Okay. Um, Okay, so we want to make sure that we're aligning to our overall OCP fault management proposal. Where we have something that gathers logs, and we have something that analyzes logs. And I put the out of band picture because that's what I have handy. But Antonio has in band solutions. I just don't have the similar picture for it. So. Um, and I think, the goal here is rich error data and hermetic error logs. In other words, when you have a problem, you go gather all the CPU SOC stuff in one CPR bundle. And maybe if you have a GPU, you gather all the GPU stuff in a different CPR bundle. You aggregate them and you send them up. But it's all hermetic. You don't need to go join a whole bunch of things. You have data that you can send to the silicon vendor that will allow them, like if you need their help and you need to call them, you can send them the bundle of CPR data and they can use it to figure out the error you saw. And that's for the common, it's like the most hardware failures. I mean, there's always going to be some corner case debuggy things that we can't cover, and we know that. And that's probably a different effort. But it also helps vendors improve their silicon, and we're standardizing on CPR, but the contents of the CPR logs are extremely flexible so that the vendors can protect their IP and make them as rich as they think they need to achieve the goal of debugging failures. And then we want the analysis tools to find new signals with decoding. We want to look at faulty throughs, suggest RAS actions, and identify which errors are most likely to impact uptime performance. So this should just be kind of like, yeah, whatever. I'm hoping this isn't a shock to anyone. This should reflect what the fault management proposal had. Is this controversial? Okay, I'm going to assume not. If it is and you don't want to say anything, reach out to me and I'll listen to you. The other thing I would say is, where is the RAS API fit? And at least, like it's really, how do you standardize code that gathers the errors and the interface to the silicon? And again, I don't have an in-band picture, so if someone can give me an in-band picture, I'm happy to extend it and say, Google's focused more on out-of-band, but y'all want to do it in band somewhere, that's great. And that's your decision. And it's intended to cover all kinds of silicons, SoCs, PCIe devices, and I'm talking to VLOS about UCIe.
Hey,
They
Drew,
made,
this is Anil. Can you hear me?
yeah.
Yeah, I can provide an in-band picture, something similar to that.
Oh, good. I'll
There are many
incorporate it.
pictures out there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Send it to me, and I will incorporate it. And I'll
Yep.
just call it out as, here's what Meta's thinking, and I love it. That's great.
Yep.
Um, okay, and we're saying UCIe, CXL, whatever. It's like a silicon device should be able to use this model. And then,
Yeah, Drew, I completely align. Like, I think because this is builds on the hardware fault management infrastructure
mhm,
requirements, right? It is like, I think that the way I see the RAS API is like, whatever this hardware fault management infrastructure requirements for out of band, maybe in band, how do you implement those? How do we implement independent of silicon? Right? The implementation is the one RAS API provides,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, we have to, and what we want to do, I think, is kind of have that an abstraction layer that gives the silicon vendors some latitude in how they implement it behind the scenes, but we get the end result of a simple driver that runs in the BMC, or Vilas has some in-band ideas that he thinks would be pretty simple that he wants to talk about. And I know Antonio's put some thought into in-band as well, but absolutely, it's sort of an abstraction layer from hardware.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus one. I totally agree with you, Rama. And so then this is the last slide. So I told you I'm trying to. It's only a few slides, but my goal on my side. Now this is not. I'm not speaking for Meta or anyone else, but I'm just saying, hey, I'd like a simple upstreamable driver in the BMC that needs little change for new generations of silicon. And it's a simple API with little code in the BMC, but it allows us to gather error logs and drive RAS actions. But we want the error logs to be rich. And when I say first principles level data, I'm talking about which bits were flipped and what's the pattern. And it's not just, oh, you had this error, but it's details about the scope of the error and details that you would use to understand more about how the hardware failed and improve the quality of the hardware in the future. And I care about out of band logging and bare metal. And if someone wants to complement these goals with the in band goals, I'm totally open to it. Again, this is just where I'm coming from. I really, really want CPR logs because I think it's flexible and it allows the vendors to hide their IP so they can add detail that they might not want to make public, and that's great. Um, I also am eager to see a single aggregator of error logs from the BMC. So rather than having, a log here and a log there, we have the hardware fault monitor. And what I propose is anyone can put a CPR log in the redfish tree, but the aggregator can go, okay, here's an error, and I got 3 CPR logs from it. You can have URIs to the CPR logs. And then our collectors all grab, all the collector does is get the message from this collector and says, oh, it has 3 URIs. I'll go get them all. They're CPR. I will hand them up to the analyzer, and then the analyzer can go, okay, this CPR idea has this GUID. It matches the NVIDIA analyzer or the ARM analyzer or the Intel or AMD one. And you just kind of match the GUIDs, and the tool can analyze the error. But the key is that it's hermetic. It's not spread out all over the redfish tree with a whole bunch of joins. And that's really about it. So that's kind of my North Star on what I'm hoping for. And I grant you that not everyone wants out of band. I 100% agree. I'm not trying to preclude in band. I'm just talking about my North Star. If someone wants to help me add the in band perspective to this, I'm very, very open to it. So is this controversial or am I in the ballpark?
No. One question is like, is like in Microsoft we use North Star like very often. Is it a similar thing? Like, okay.
Well, it's kind of like when we say North Star, it's like, you have like when I was in survival, evasion, resistance, escape training, we didn't want to pull the compass out because the aggressors would see the compass light and come after us. So I used the North Star a lot to navigate then. And I could just look up in the sky and I could say, I'm going the right direction. And I think that's a really good analogy for what we want here is we can look up in the sky and say, are we going the right direction? Are we heading towards, you know, and the key for me is that we're pairing gathering the error data with analyzing the error data. That you don't build the error log collection and then hope someone can make sense of it later. It's done intentionally such that you're gathering what you intend to analyze. So anyway, Rama, sorry, I'm long-winded. Hopefully I answered your question. I mean, if you like North Star, we can change it, but that was just a
No,
term we
no,
use.
no. We use very often. Like, yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I
So
see. Oh, go ahead, Antonio. Please. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, no, don't worry. So I just wanted to add to what you said because I'm not going to present any slides actually. You cover it very well. I'm fully aligned. Just that for the RAS API, the effort, this is the commercial part, a public announcement thing. We're probably going to start it on August 8th. Right before we started, I have to remove everybody that has not signed the CLA. As soon as you get the CLA, you'll be re-added to the drive and to the mailing list. But I cannot get your invite until you get the CLA signed. So please try to get the CLA signed before August 8th. The other thing is we do have a proposal in the this half version that we have proposed of RAS API for in-band, and we're obviously willing to modify it. And I heard there's some great things, and that's what I'm anxious to start, because there's more things we can put to it. We can abstract it better, let it be more platform independent. That's all positive, right? What we're looking, like Drew said, is for it to be platform agnostic, vendor agnostic. So if you have a better way of abstracting things and you still have the goodness that these goals need, right? Like having, I would add to it management of error storms and things like that that we
Yeah,
have in
yeah.
the current architecture. Yeah, and then we can connect by many means. If you have a better one or a more abstracted version, let's do it. For out of band, the same thing, right? We have a proposal, but if you have a better one or you have a more abstracted one, we want to hear about it. We want to change it. And that's the reason why, well, we won't wait any longer. I know that there's like three or four more companies that said they wanted to be in and have not signed the CLA. We will incorporate you as soon as you sign the CLA, but we're so excited about this, right?
Yeah,
Everybody's
yeah.
aligned.
Really?
We want to start changing things in what the proposal we had. It's already old, right? We froze that in January, so
Yeah.
so it's already old, and there's so many good ideas I've heard, and the only way that we can capture them in a legal way and not have any problems by open sourcing them is doing it in the working group with the CLA. So we're decided with Drew and I, like we're starting on August 8th, and we're incorporating people as soon as they get their CLA signed. Please join us. This sounds
Yeah.
like there's so many good ideas in this community, and definitely our goal is vendor agnostic. Don't think we're trying to make this so Intel has a upper hand. No, Google can keep me honest. Like Drew has
Yeah.
reviewed things, and yeah, we're not proposing an Intel thing. But there's things
Well,
I don't know
and
about
actually, the
other
funny thing
architectures.
is,
And
yeah, the funny thing, Antonio, is the way it's sounding. There may be a GPU, a need for a faster GPU implementation of something than so who knows? You know, maybe someone else is faster. Um, so yeah, I 100% agree with what you just said there.
that's great. And we're going to try to start the workstream really fast. And for that, we're going to make some trainings to what we have in 100.8 version so we can come into the meetings and start changing things, right? That's the whole idea of the meeting is let's discuss what we need to change. Because right
Yeah.
now the spec is what you've seen, whoever has read it knows it's pretty old and it was a little bit hasty. We want to do it right, and we want to do it with all the ideas of the community. So we'll have some trainings to let you know what's in there, and so we can start making changes, right? And that's the whole idea. So please do join us in that discussion.
Hey,
And
Antonio, I have one question from the example implementation. Are we planning to put together an example implementation also?
We're not at that level, Anil, because we've not decided things like the point. The version we contributed, which is the half version, right, has some suggestions, but I don't know if that's how much of that is going to be at the 1.0 version. So no, I have no way of putting a prototype at this point. Perhaps next year by the summit, we'll hopefully have something in the global summit of 2024 where we can do that. And yep, that'll be one of our goals. But this year with the half version, I don't think it'll provide insights. It will, because it might change, right? So
yeah,
what good
we're
is
not
it
there
a
yet.
demo if it's a half version, right? We
But
need
I
to
think,
incorporate everybody's feedback.
and I think the other thing that will happen is that as we solidify things. So the other thing I've asked is for Rama to come to us with the needs from the working group that he's in, and they are on a different schedule time-wise. And so what I'd like to do is try to prioritize in time the things we need to solidify first, and focus our feedback on kind of on the schedule that we need to act on. And then we can solidify those things. And then the first implementers will, probably have the first reference implementation. And it may not be all of the spec, or it may be just the part that applies to them. We just don't know yet because we don't know what's going to change. But
So,
but
Drew and Antonio, let me finish my thought process here.
sure.
I am something is not aligning in my mind. Okay, if this is if the REST API is still a requirement, another requirement document, right? And the hardware fault handling requirement document that you're driving is also a requirement document, right? So
They're different.
I'm
They're not both requirement documents.
And the
okay.
REST API is in the
Help me
specification.
understand what.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
REST
help me
API is in
understand
the
that.
specification. REST API is in the specification. It's not a requirements document, it's specification, and tells you how to abstract your hardware to the software. So it will tell you how to connect and enumerate and make available, agnostic to the vendor, agnostic to the platform, your RAS features. That's what RAS API is. It's in the specification. It's not a
Okay,
requirement
so
document.
all right, so the specification in my mind then should come with some implementation example. Otherwise, it is still just in paper, right? I mean, I'm not
Absolutely.
trivializing the work. I'm not
Yeah,
trivializing
yeah.
the work. I'm
Well,
just saying that before we go in
yeah.
public, right? So that's one thing that is I'm struggling with that. And second is I know
It's
you've
really
been
simple.
asked.
Let's answer your first thing first, then we'll hear your second. The first things first, though, we can't implement a spec that isn't written. So that's why we don't have a reference implementation, is we don't have a spec.
No, I mean, Antonio, you are talking about 1.0, right? 1.0 means it's ready, right?
Well, when we
Oh, I'm
get there,
talking that
we
I
can
want to
consider.
build it. I want to build 1.0. I don't have 1.0. 1.0 is when we have the input from the community. I have a zero point 0.7 or zero point 0.6 or whatever. I have an incomplete version. That's what we contributed with Drew and myself. And we don't have a 1.0. And by the way, we're following pretty similar to what a normal consortium would do. Like CXL publishes a spec, and a few months later they publish a white paper or publish some examples. And yes, I agree. We have to put the examples, the white paper, or a prototype or whatever out there. But
Yeah.
that's after the spec is defined. We
Just
don't
written.
have a
We gotta
1.0
write it
version.
first, yeah.
Like Anil, like your question answered. Can I ask a follow-up question before we go to second question?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Like Antonio, like let's say like there is some version, whatever the version is there, right? Like now that there are more people on board, like as part of CLA, like right, the goals of the things may little bit change where we started, like say 5 months back or something. Is it like a plan is to append from what are the current spec to make it 1.0, or like is it like hey, to cover like other scenarios, like the little bit foundations itself can be, what is your thought process on that,
Yeah.
like
So
are we starting with point 7 because previously the CLAs, is it a CLA based work, or is it like a what
it,
kind of
it,
work
it is
was done before, and from where we start for the next CLA version?
Yeah, so it is a CLR version, so it has been contributed, right? It's already in the IC contribute database.
Hmm.
Now, what can change? Everything can change. So the only thing we cannot change is the
Gotcha.
objective. So the
Yes, yes.
objective is what we've signed in the CLA, right? How we get there. So let's say we propose an in-band methodology that has to do with MMIO and a driver, and somebody comes in and says like, no, I don't want drivers, I hate drivers, and all the CSPs say like, well, we're not going to do the drivers, then let's change it. That's open to change. Don't get stuck on the zero point 0.7. That was kind of arbitrary. We just needed to have a number below 1, so that everything can be changed. So if you say that there's a different in-band or a different out-of-band message type that we need. Or we don't need MCTP and PLDM, we need something else. That's what currently we have is an MCTP message with a PLDM. But you say we need something else. I need another connection there. We can change that. All of that's open. That's changing, and now obviously we need to extend because we were using a baseline where we just define memory. So we need the core features. We need the RAS core features, self-test. We need to go into core disable, GPU core disable, and things like that. We need to define that together. We didn't even started with that. Because we knew that was going to be wildly different how Intel does it as how the community does it. So we just did the memory, which is pretty standard stuff that we copied from CXL for the most part. And,
Yes.
and whatever we're putting there, we already pushed into CXL. So it's kind of an industry standard, but we need to create that other part is completely new. But that doesn't mean we're just going to do that. No, we're going to start from the basic architecture that I want us to discuss, and then going to the in-band connection, then to the out-of-band connection, then start with the opcodes, the locking mechanisms, the arbitration between mailboxes, and then start adding more features and abstracting all the RAS features that we can find as a community. The error logs, we already put zipper, so everybody does their own zipper, and I don't think that's going to be a lot of contention unless somebody wants something different than zipper. That zipper for some reason cannot contain, which I'll be surprised. But yeah, that's you can also extend on that, right?
Yeah. We are all bought on the sleeper. Like that is the OCP work, right? Everybody contributed, and
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
like one follow up question. Thank you, Antonio. That more details. Like right now, because maybe it's very early, right, to put the timelines of a let's say like a GPU, there is a multiple work streams, right? Or just RAS is one of them. There is a firmware updates and all that. It took like 1 year effort from like companies started CLA, okay, to come to like a point 0.5, point 0.7 spec. Like what are the timelines you are looking for this, or is not yet established, maybe because we have not started? That is also correct answer. Like, or if you have some timelines in mind already.
Drew shares his dreams. I'm going to share mine. My dream is to have a point 0.1 by December 31st. It's a very hard dream to achieve, and it might be reduced in the sense that it might not cover every use case or everything. We might cut sections of what's there, but I'm hoping we have something functional that we can call 1.0. And we've already accelerated the legal process because everybody working on this is working towards RAS API open standard. So they signed the CLA. So once we have the 1.0, we just have to sign the FS something.
Yes.
You guys know the other legal stuff. But then the
Yeah,
CLA, FSI, yes, that one. So we kind of have some work already, and I'm hoping we can agree on things and make changes quickly, and start writing the specs so we have a 1.0 by the end of the year. I know that's going to be really hard, and if we ended
Yeah,
that by
that
end of
is very
Q1,
hard.
it'll be fine. Of course, it'll take how much it takes. I don't want it necessarily perfect. We can do a 1.1 after that. We just need to have a full agreement in whatever comes out into the 1.0. That's definitely the goal. Have a full agreement of that, and make it something that can be prototype and productized, like Anil said, right? Something that once it's a version 1.0 is something you can go and see, right? Not just a spec, right? So, and that later we can add more features. We can add more RAS abstractions and all of that work. We can do a 1.1, 1.2, and keep working on it. But the basics of it, I want us to agree by 1.0. And yes, my dream is end of this year. I don't know how much, if I don't know how
Yeah,
much of that we're going to do.
yeah, that's a good target. I know based on the previous experience on the OCP CLI based work stream. Yeah, yeah, like very odd target, but it's good to have that kind of target. Yeah.
Well, and so it depends on you how fast we move, because the better people engage, the faster we can move.
Yeah,
So it sounded like
I,
Vilas was trying to get in. Vilas or someone else maybe.
No, I wasn't actually going to say anything.
Okay.
I have a
so
question for Antonio, but it's just logistical for later. So
I just want to add something here that once we have the 1.0 and a prototype, then it's going to take a lot more time after that, even after that, to actually implement in our stack and deploy it. So just want to kind of set the realistic expectations, because this is a this is something we have to do today in our fleet, and the fleet which is in the development right now. So the solution we are deployed, and then the one we are developing right now obviously is not based on this REST API. And
yeah,
the one we are doing right now actually is we are trying to move towards RAS daemon, because that we believe is a lot more agnostic to platform. So just want to kind of give a realistic thought process that it's going to take several years before we can see this REST API implementation and deployment in our fleet.
yeah.
Yeah,
Anil,
agreed. I think you got to start somewhere though.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I agree. I'm all with that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and Anil, the good news is the idea on the software driver for the Linux app streaming connects to RasDaemon. So don't worry, we'll get you the errors into RasDaemon.
Yeah. No, this is good. I mean, that's exactly where we are already moving in now in direction. So I'm excited about this thing, this effort. That's why I was hoping that if you already have it, if you would have said, yeah, I have a prototype now, then I would have been more excited.
yeah, yeah.
But
Uh,
but
On the timelines wise, right? Like, yeah, like with the Drew when we are talking, right? I think he mentioned like the summary was right, like that, like product intercept, the timelines is some of the like that has to come into mind in the sense to make us as a success, right? Like putting the specs is like hey, like we can all celebrate, go and present it. The senior leadership will look at like a time to market kind of thing, cost savings because of standardization, right? They will appreciate more once we start seeing the adoption. We need to see like Anil point or Drew point is like, hey, what is the like first product intercepts OCP based solution is coming up, right? That also, in addition to the spec, we need to start some goal right now, right? And then try to work from there. Like let's say that goals are product intercept plans, right? Because there is a lot of things we are proposing in this the APIs, right, as a silicon dependencies. Because generally, like we cannot go to silicon vendor say, hey, try to do it in the existing like a plan of record SKU, right? It takes time. I know silicon changes is not easy.
Yeah.
Like how do we do
yeah,
like a
yeah,
firmware part
yeah,
but
non-silicon
yeah,
directly?
but hey,
but
it's too early to be talking about product intercepts. We don't even have a spec. We don't know we don't know how much work it's going to be. We don't know what to do, right? We gotta. I mean, I think Antonio, you said this, right? We have to work together to get the spec to a point where we're all happy with it. And part of what we'll do is take into account each of us individually, like how that affects our products, right? But like it's way too early to be talking about any of that, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The reason
And, and
reason we are
I
doing
fully
that.
agree, and one thing I wanted to add, as I fully agree with you, and during the discussions in the RAS API, part of why it's CLA is because we're not going to talk any NDA thing, right? And any product intercept is NDA information. So don't expect to, to talk about product interceptions. Of course, right now is because we don't have a spec, but later once we have the spec, talk that outside of the working group because that's not public information. And
Yeah.
to be 100% honest with you, I'm not the right person to talk about Intel's roadmap. I'm the right person to talk about the spec and the future, but not the roadmap itself. So I'll definitely try to keep any product intercept discussion outside of the working group. can
But
have
I
that
think
in
it
one
is,
WAN.
yeah. But to Rama's earlier point, it is fair to come to us and say, hey, we need to move faster. I'm looking for an answer in this time frame, and
Oh yeah,
you know,
yeah. We accept the pressure, we accept the timeline limitations and everything, but please don't just come and say like, when are you going to have RAS API implemented? Because even it has the answer, which I definitely don't. I won't be
you
able to
can say
say
it in
we're
a
working
meeting.
on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it would
I
be
agree.
bad if I said in a meeting. So
Yeah,
uh,
like I think we are trying to say something like the same thing, right? Because product intercepts are outside of this one, right? That's why it's in silicon generation and dependencies. Those depends on many things. Like other way to look at is a non-silicon kind of firmware kind of things, right? Okay, part of the spec, right? Like where we can influence, right? Just putting the requirements and like coming the implementation angle to it, we need to drive that kind of stuff also. If everything is silicon dependency, then we understand a part of that can be like a firmware, like where we can code right now, or tools like compliance tools, right? Those things we need to discuss. Otherwise what will happen is like because until that we cannot say that, hey, like if you're not delivering immediate goals, like say some tools, some like a BMC, like open BMC based something, people will think through like, hey, like in the end, right, it has to hit something. Are we delivering code tools, right, or product or something? Like we need to come up with some plan out of this. Is it some of part of the firmware things?
Um,
Otherwise what will happen is like
yeah, I mean, Rama, I understand what you're saying,
yes,
but I think I kind of disagree, right? Like the point of the work stream is to come up with the spec, like period, right? Ideally, then companies will independently go off and implement to that spec, and that'll take some amount of time, depending on the requirements of the spec, right? But like at the end of the day, we're talking about a spec in the work stream, right? And then we got to go individually figure out intercept time.
And then I think what we do is we reach out to the silicon vendors as end users that we're working with, and and try to set the appropriate level of urgency for our needs. And that will be a give and take with the silicon vendors, because there's always competing priorities, but we will prioritize it among our needs, and that hopefully will help drive adoption.
Yeah. And I mean, depending on how long it takes, I mean, I like Antonio's, target, but I mean, it'll take as long as it takes, right? But regardless of how long it takes, like at some point it'll be clear as to, okay, here's a piece of hardware that needs to happen, here's a piece of firmware that needs to happen, right? I would imagine that implementation can go off and start in parallel, at individual companies once that stuff is clear. But none of that's clear yet. So it's just a little early to be, thinking
yeah,
about
yeah,
that,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I
No,
like that, Vilas. I think and this is where I was thinking Rama could come to us with their needs, and we can figure out the parts of this that we need to solidify first, and see if we can get to a level of confidence in any part of it that we can implement that part in parallel early. So,
yeah,
but I don't know. I like that. I want to do that, but we have to just look in the details and see what's possible.
yeah, yeah. The reason I was sharing is that the GPU CLA, whether the firmware updates RAS are, it is mostly around like there is some always silicon dependencies, right? Some things like a compliance tools and some firmware things coming early so that they see like OCP based tools and all. Like we don't want to stop if these are taking like a lot of time, right? And how do we accelerate? That's what we discussed with Drew. If something like has to be done through this one, right? Part of it, how do we deliver it? Like in stuff like 1.0 that we can discuss like more offline. Yeah, thanks for
Yeah, yeah. If someone says they're blocked by something, then
yeah, yeah.
we can discuss, what
How
can
do
we do to
we?
unblock them? Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, okay, okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I didn't mean for this to take this long. I really appreciate the time, and I'm eager to get stuff done. And Vilas, I was before you joined. We just said, hey, Antonio and I talked to Rama and others at Microsoft, and we realized that they've got an air injection spec. We've got a RAS API spec. Let's merge our efforts somehow. And so that's kind of our direction. And I can give you details later, but there's really not a lot of overlap. So we agreed that we can push some of our air injection stuff the direction they're going, as we flesh it out. And then the RAS API stuff with the GPUs we can sort that out in the RAS API discussions as well. So anyway, we're making good progress.
Yeah, sounds great. Sorry I was late.
No worries.
Yeah, we'll ask
Hey,
maybe like Drew updated, like I'll also update some of the things like, okay, you will see some things like in your calendar. Okay.
Yeah.
okay. Yep.
So, Drew, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
So, is there any picture that you or Anthony has drawn clarifying the interrelationship between RAS API and the hardware fault management requirement that you've been driving?
Well, I mean, I just showed a picture a few minutes ago it showed the scope of it, but it was more geared towards out of band. So, maybe Antonio, you can help me with
No, no,
an.
not that part. No, no. What I'm asking for is, okay, here is a REST API interface spec coming in, and here's the hardware fault management requirement roadmap or status, and how they both depend on each other. Do we
Well,
have
I think that drawing shows that. The drawing says that, we propose this infrastructure of vendor-defined error logging and analysis, and then, we need to create simple upstreamable drivers in the BMC or in band that allow us to gather the data and drive interfaces. So, yeah, I thought that picture was that.
Okay, so I must have missed that. That's fine. I will take a look at it. If it's already there, then great.
Yeah, I'll send the slides out after the meeting, and uh, we can talk. Neil, and like since you have a more vested interest in the out of band, the offer stands. You want to chat and help me get the out of band thing right from your perspective. I'm very happy to get your input.
You mean in Bandro, right?
I'm sorry, I'm in band. I'm sorry. Oh, I need Neil's help with the in band. Yes.
Well, no, I mean, I'm interested in both, right? for 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 us, for Invada, right? We are open for everything. Of course, Invent has some interest, right? At the same time, we are open for both. In fact, our solution will always be hybrid. I can tell you that. We don't have anything like in-band versus out-of-band.
Yeah, it kind of has to be because when you have a fatal error and the software can't run, you got to log out of band because in-band's not running anymore. So,
Exactly, exactly.
um, but Anil, I'm not reflecting the in-band in what I'm writing because I don't understand it. It's not my focus. So, like I said, the offer stands. If you want to chat, I'm happy to take your input and work with you on it. I just don't have a strong opinion on in-band because I'm not really interested in it.
Yeah, and Andrew, we have some on the material we've been preparing for the RAS API kickoff. There's some in band there. You should
Okay,
look
and
at
I'll
that.
try to look at that too.
Complement.
Yeah, maybe that'll be good. And I apologize. As I said, I've been kind of tuning out on the in-band stuff a little bit.
I think, yeah, I know where Drew is coming from. When you look at like right in band, okay, you look at DPU or GPU, CPU, right? In band has not like one, right? Like because like GPU is running its own own stack, right? CPU is running own stack, DPU is running other stack. In
Yeah.
band, when you combine all three, that is the problem we face like defining in band requirements. If you are trying to RAS API for just for CPU, in band becomes easy, right? Okay, like if you're bringing a complex system, okay, which can have like like two CPUs, one or two CPUs, like 4 to 8 GPUs, one DPU, right? Like drawing the in-band RAS as a additional complexity that we went through that kind of process. Like yeah, it is very like happy to see that. Hey, what is the approach for that? Okay, Like this is not a one agent. Whereas like you see like a BMC, you can talk about there is a master slave BMC also. There won't be one BMC also, right? But the concept of that master slave is using a similar interfaces. Okay, whether it's like I2C, like MCTP or PCIe, the Redfish standard and all, that becomes very easy. There is a lot of complexities. It's not easy as if you're writing for just for RAS API for CPU or like a DPU, the in-band makes easy. That is the problem we face. If you're thinking proposal that you want to adapt it, please think through those difficulties.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to discuss that as we dig in. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
and
face it.
Antonio, you are not sharing today, but I think you have some thoughts on exactly that line of
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah. I'll leave that for the first meeting of the RAS API, where we can discuss more about that. So yeah, because I think we took your whole meeting on the first point, you guys. Sorry about that. I know you
Sorry.
wanted to
No,
remove
that's
the
not
global
my.
summit papers.
First of all, it's not my meeting. It's all of us' meeting, and that there's no better use than kind of sorting out
Yeah.
differences and coming to an agreement. That's what we are here for. So,
I agree. This is more critical topic than like, yeah, like, hey, we want to
yeah.
solve. Yeah, yeah.
So we have 2 minutes. I think let's just flash real quick uh, what we have in terms of the global summit. I just want to kind of flash and make people aware of that. This is what we're aware of. Anil, I think I have the wrong one listed here for you. So just going through bullet number 2, sub bullets. We have updates on hardware fault management, API, and FMFM. Then we have Rama's track on GPU and accelerator RAS. And then we have Anil, you have a track, but that's not the one that's listed here. It's not in-band. You have something on PCIe. You want to tell us about that a little? Which one is this? Is this the one that you have discussed before, or do you want to bring it here maybe sometime? It's up to you.
Yeah, I can bring an outline next week. Basically, this is about the next machine learning AI cluster that we are building, how we are implementing RAS solution, more focusing on the PCIe uncorrected error handling containment concept that we are, the challenges that we faced, how we are addressing those. So it's
Okay. Yeah.
like a case study of the actual implementation.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be interesting. Thanks,
Hey,
Anil. Yeah.
and for this air injection requirements document, what we may want to do, since the Rama's presentation is really like we need to like figure that out. I may not want to do the air injection requirements, and we may want to make Rama's reflect, hey, here's what we've done so far, and then here's how we kind of reflect what we discussed today. So, Ram, I'm happy to give up the air injection requirements time and cede that to you, and then maybe we figure out like how to show how we're merging all these efforts together, or maybe we take the time at the end to say, okay, here's the big picture, here's how everything fits together, or maybe we put something up front that says here's how things fit together.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
we
yeah.
can
Thank you.
work on
And
that.
one more
But
thing, Yogesh.
yeah,
Yogesh, that one, like, there is like two more speakers. One is from NVIDIA, other one is from Google.
I
And
understand. This is just for who is
yeah,
going to be
yeah, yeah,
who's going
yeah,
to be
yeah,
talking about. So it's your submission.
yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk next week about how we want to handle injection, not only in a global summit but also in general. I think Rama, you wanted to bring it here for working sessions also, so we can talk about it next week. Just we are 1 minute over, and I know there is no shaker in Vilas's hand today. Sorry, Vilas, but I just want to check if there is any other any other submitted and accepted proposal which are on RAS topics that we are not aware of. The process
There's
this
a
time was different. I
yeah.
didn't.
There's the resilience stuff, right? The SDC stuff.
Yeah, SGC, I intentionally left it out because we're not really that closely other than yeah, we're not that closely sharing with them. So I
Yep.
mean, yeah,
Speak for yourself. I'm presenting. So
I know,
Hey,
I know, I know,
yeah.
I know.
let's add Yogesh. Yeah, yeah. We'll also do that.
Yeah, it is. We kind of went through that a little bit, right? Whether it's RAS or it's kind of pre-RAS.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I just bringing it up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it's fine.
yeah, no, thanks, Vilas. So yeah, I left early today, so I don't know. So you're part of the presentation. What's the topic going to be for SDC this time?
Oh, we're putting together a spec, I think, for like information sharing amongst academics and so on. So it's kind of overview of that. So
Very cool.
Awesome.
yep.
Well, so Vilas, where you have a chance maybe not to get the normal drink, I got to do a 4-hour drive home. So I had a magneto failure on the flight in on Thursday, and so I told their traffic controllers, I got a rough engine. I better land as fast as I can. Landed and had to drive to work. So now I got a hotel last night and I have to drive back. So anyway, I'll be thinking about drinking when I get back.
Well, good luck with the drive. So,
Thank you.
Have a
all right.
I'm glad you're safe, Drew.
Yeah, well, I got two magnetos, so if one fails, the engine gets a little rough, but it'll still run. So there's redundancy, there's fault tolerance. The fault was managed.
There you go.
Yeah, that is the most important thing.
No
We don't want to
crash, no
build this
kernel
type.
dump. No crash, no kernel dump.
Yeah, there was no crash and no dump. Yes, no crash, dump.
No crash, no crash, no dump, and we don't want RAS specs like duplicate, but right
Yeah,
engines
right.
we want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
love it.
Take care,
I
everyone.
love
Yeah, have a good weekend.
it.
have a
Okay.
good weekend,
Good
guys.
week. See y'all later. Bye.